In this career, sometimes you feel like you're still waiting for that acceptance, until you realize that it's when you accept yourself, that's when the real acceptance has finally arrived.
Wellness, career, service, whole you. Insights on living a balanced, purposeful life.
Welcome to Whole You TV. I'm Shannon O'Brien. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Pili Montilla. Pili is an Emmy Award-winning TV host, producer, content creator, and tastemaker who has made a name for herself as the go-to host in the bilingual entertainment world. Always immersed in the world of music, fashion, arts, and travel, Pili has built a solid reputation as an entertainer. Pili works as a TV host for several networks in both the Hispanic and general markets, as a live host for different events and brands, and as an influencer and content creator for an array of clients. Pili, thanks so much for being on Whole You TV.
Are you kidding me? Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor.
Yay, I'm looking forward to our conversation. So a little bit of background, we actually met at Boston College when we were both undergraduates.
Like 2 years ago.
Or like 20, but yeah, 2 years ago.
Wow, yes, it's been a while.
Been a hot minute, but during that entire time, I've been observing your career from afar or up close, and I'm just always so impressed with what you're up to, because it really seems like you are pursuing your life's work. You're really pursuing your dream career, which not a lot of people can say. But a lot of people want to pursue their dream career. So that's part of our conversation today, is you're actually living it. So what does it really entail? Maybe can you start by telling us, what did you do immediately after graduating Boston College?
So I moved to New York against my parents' will, but obviously, I was an independent, grown adult that had just graduated from college. So I had free will. So I moved to New York, and I was a cocktail waitress and a coat checker at a restaurant while I auditioned, failing consistently, not booking anything, making barely $700 a month, to which $500 would go to rent. And I was living in Hell's Kitchen in New York City with 4 other people so it was 5 of us in a 4-bedroom apartment. So I lived, my room I shared with another friend of mine, and we had bunk beds. And, thank God that I worked at a restaurant, because basically what I did was I would steal food from the kitchen so I could save some money in food. Paid my dues as an actor and as an entertainer.
You had mentioned these auditions. I hear that it's like not easy when you're auditioning, right? You go to audition after audition. Do you finally get a big break, or how does it happen? Do you remember your first acceptance?
In this career, sometimes you feel like you're still waiting for that acceptance, until you realize that it's when you accept yourself, that's when the real acceptance has finally arrived.
Amen.
It's taken me a while. It has to do with like spirituality and all that. But back then, I was 21. I had just graduated from college. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. So coming from a very small island to living in New York City and, trying to make it was very tough. And before that, I had done theater and commercials, and I was modeling in Puerto Rico. Looking back in life, that's when you start putting all the dots together. And that's when you realize when you made it, but when you're in it, you don't really know, because you're just in it. I had many opportunities that have taken me to where I am now that I'm thankful for. But I think my biggest one was not in New York. It was actually in Puerto Rico. So after New York, after September 11th. So around this time, some years ago, I moved back to Puerto Rico because, as a waitress, I wasn't making any money after September 11th. New York was mourning. So I moved back to Puerto Rico, and I auditioned to be a VJ, which is a video jockey for MTV. So MTV was opening a network in Puerto Rico, and my mom said, I think you'd be great for this. Back then I was just focusing on acting, and didn't really see hosting as an opportunity for me. But at the same time,
Hmm.
I was like, okay, sure, I can do this. Why not? I love being in front of an audience. So how much different can it be? So I ended up auditioning for MTV, and I was a VJ for MTV for almost 3 years. And that was pretty much like my big break, because it was such a school for me. I fell in love with hosting. I was producing small segments. I was researching for all the news and for the interviews that I had to do. I was translating from English to Spanish. There was no teleprompter, so I was really working with my memory. So it was like a great school for me, and it really like helped me build my career and really know, like, that's when I realized that hosting was my calling. It wasn't so much acting. I love acting and I'll always be an actor, but hosting is really like my calling.
I remember seeing one of the shows that you were hosting, and you were going back and forth from Spanish to English, and you were just connecting with everybody and making jokes. And it's just so natural to you, and you're totally yourself. And I'm like, that's Pili. She's not putting on a show or putting on a show whatsoever. So does being natural come naturally to you?
It's a combination of a lot of factors. I think it has to do with personality. So I was just in Puerto Rico last weekend. I was there last week hosting Miss Universe in Puerto Rico, and I opted to stay with my parents. And I was looking at like old pictures of little Pili, and in every picture I'm like raising my hand or like going like this, or so in a way, I think it's in my DNA. Like I was born to entertain. I like the spotlight, So I think that comes naturally to me.
Yeah.
Definitely being very disciplined with acting, and taking my career very seriously. Even though it's a fun one, I take it very seriously. Like I know this is my calling and it's my purpose, and I don't take that lightly. And it comes with a responsibility. I think that has a lot to do with it too. Practicing, observing, listening, all of that helps as well. And experience, like I'm sure if we would sit down now and look at my first dates when I was with MTV, I'm sure we would laugh, because I'm sure I was like not as comfortable as I am now. But now, I have the experience and also all this other work that I've done outside of the cameras, which is, again, my spiritual work and my self-growth. That has definitely helped my career and my confidence a lot.
Yeah, let's get into that now, because it's very apparent, even though you're fun and, going to parties and dancing, listening to music, like a party girl, you have this spiritual grounding. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Right. So it was an interesting journey, and I thank California for it because, like I said, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Spirituality is not part of my culture. It's not part of, it's just not part of my culture. It's not part of our dialogue. It's actually something that's looked down upon. But when I moved to California and started connecting with more conscious and aware people, I discovered how important that was, at least for me. I think for everyone, but I'm not who to say like this is your path. I have to give thanks to an ex-boyfriend of mine, Michael, who's an amazing human being, and we're friends to this day. But he introduced me to Landmark, and from Landmark I got a life coach, and then I was exposed to all these weird things, as people in Puerto Rico mention, but it resonated with me. And I saw the value in it. And I could also see how people would be like, oh, this is very culty like, this is like a cult. You could see it that way too, but I chose to see it another way. I chose to see it as beautiful growth that's only going to benefit my life. And I haven't regretted any moment of it. Then eventually I started going to like Burning Man and other events that really like opened up your eyes to a whole nother dimension of human capacity and like what we're able to do when we set our minds to it. However, I do have to point out that so after MTV, there was a channel called LA TV, based out of LA, but it was national. And it was really LA TV because it was like the Latino television. And it was a bilingual, bicultural channel. That's probably where you saw me going back and forth in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one, I think.
So that channel, since it was a network that was national, you could see it in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is part of the US, so you could see it in Puerto Rico. So I would see this channel and I would see the host in it, and I was like, I would really want to be part of that, because I was like, okay, Puerto Rico, it's an island. I'm already on TV every day. I'm doing soap operas. I have a radio show. Like, I've done everything in Puerto Rico, and I wanted more because I've always been very ambitious. So I would watch LATV from Puerto Rico from my parents' bedroom, and like I would see myself, visualize myself holding the mic that had the LATV logo on it in the studio and hosting. And then one day I just decided to send my resume and my reel to the talent coordinator at LATV. And I ended up moving to LA, and that was 11 years ago. And my point of telling that story is that I was a manifester without knowing that I had that power. And I was exposed to awareness and self-growth and spirituality and manifesting. I was like, oh, it's already in me. I've already done this. Let's just keep working on that.
Right. Intentionally hone it going forward, even though you look back and say, well, I've already done that. I just didn't consciously know I was doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned Landmark. I did that right out of college, right around the time I graduated, the Landmark Forum. And you said also that you work with a life coach. And I've seen some posts about, you know, your respect and admiration for your life coach. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that, because in my experience too, as an advisor and as a coach, some people have varying degrees of comfort saying, yeah, I work with a coach or an advisor, but it seems like you're very open and very embracing of your relationship with her.
It took me a couple of years to just be like, yes, I have a life coach, because of all of these cultural negative ideas around it that I had been brought up with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's like this negative connotation around looking for help, therapy. You either deal with it yourself and be strong enough, or, you know, you hide behind religion. You know, which for some people, religion is their source of spirituality. Mm-hmm. But looking for help is not something that's part of our culture. It's just not. And when I realized that I could maybe do some good sharing my experience with having a life coach, maybe some Latinos will be inspired to see things differently too, and just to know that there are other options if you don't want to go to a Catholic church, for example.
Right. You've been meeting with her regularly for a while, and you found that it has a lot of value, and you're continuing to do it.
Originally, I had one life coach, and she was awesome, and I had her for like 2 years, and then I took a break, and then I've been with Ariane Alexander, who's my life coach, for about 5 years now, and you know, it's unbelievable. I cannot imagine my life without her, to tell you the truth. And it's not because it's a codependent or like dependent relationship. It's just I've grown so much as a human being, and I see the world and I see things so differently now. You know, like if I don't book a job, I don't take it personally anymore, because I understand it has nothing to do with me. Not taking it personal, seeing through the eyes of love, like where that other person is coming from. It's just, I feel like it's made me more human.
So your work that you've been doing with your life coach and reading and the spiritual development has also played into your career. Part of your role is being an influencer. You're in Croatia one day, you're in South America one day. There's no typical day, but I don't think a lot of people understand what the role of an influencer is. So it would be really interesting if you could walk us through one of the non-typical days.
You're so right. There's not a typical day. Like, my routine is not to have a routine. Because, you know, I just, for example, yesterday I was in San Diego with AT&T, who's one of my clients. And I was covering an event for AT&T. So I flew back from Puerto Rico on Saturday.
Oh my God.
Saturday I was in San Diego, and then that night I was covering an event with Sofia Vergara and Mario Lopez. And it was super fun and super awesome. And basically what I have to do is cover the event and what's happening through my eyes, you know?
Mm.
I really fell into being an influencer because I was on TV. Then my social media started growing. Back then, Instagram didn't really exist. It was just starting. But
Mm.
then because people know you, they start following you, and then brands notice that you do have an influence. And that's really the job of an influencer, is to influence people's decision making. My responsibility as an influencer as well is to kind of like be my own voice, but saying the message of the client, but in my own words or with my own energy and vibe to it, you know? So kind of like bring in my personality, because that's why people follow me. It's because hopefully they like who I am. Every day is different. I practice yoga. So when I'm in LA, I try to go to my hot yoga as much as possible. And I work a lot from home. So I'm always following up with clients, reaching out to possible new clients.
For a brand, their intention is to sell a product, to sell a service, and you're helping with them with that. So what kind of metrics are you judged by, or even do you judge yourself by?
The strongest social media outlet right now is Instagram by far. So I focus most of my energy into Instagram. So fortunately or unfortunately, I'm on Instagram all the time. It's part of my job.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my insights. I'm looking at when my audience is most active, when is the best time to post. And then for my clients, I have to send back a report letting them know like how many views my Instagram stories had, how many people commented, how many likes the picture, the post had, how many people commented, if they used the hashtag, if they started following the client, all of that.
I know that you do a lot of work with different charities and causes that are close to your heart. So I know that that's something that you also want to bring voice to.
Yes, right now I've been focusing my energy mostly on Friends of Puerto Rico. So I'm a board member of a non-for-profit based out of Washington, D.C. called Friends of Puerto Rico. I've been on board for a year and a half now, which was perfect timing because then after, I don't know, maybe like 5 months after I became a board member, Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. So I was able to help Friends of Puerto Rico raise over $1 million for relief efforts for Puerto Rico. And like I said, I was just there recently, and there's still people without power. Many street lights that are not working, so that causes a lot of accidents and deaths. So the island still needs help. So if you guys can donate, even if it's $1, please visit friendsofpuertorico.org. We do need all the help we can get. So that's right now my main focus, is helping my island and my people. I'm part of the diaspora, so I'm part of Puerto Ricans that have left Puerto Rico, but that doesn't mean that my heart is not still there. Mm-hmm. And it's my island. It's where I grew up. It's where my heart is, and we don't deserve to not have power after a year. I don't take being in front of an audience and having eyeballs on me for granted. And that comes with a responsibility. And I feel like being a public figure or celebrity or whatever you want to call it does come with a responsibility. And I want to channel that into something positive and give back in some way.
We'll make sure that the link to Friends of Puerto Rico is below so everyone can click and donate.
Go to friendsofpuertorico.org. You'll be able to see where the money has gone to. For example, we've helped 13 Boys and Girls Clubs in Puerto Rico, feeding them, giving them generators. We helped an orphanage. They lost the roof, so we helped rebuild that. We focus on mainly culture, art, and education. So we also give scholarship to students that want to go to college. Like I don't think I would tie my name to something that I didn't really believe in, and I'm very proud of the work that we're doing.
Wow. So tell us about some of the projects that you're working on now. What are you excited about?
I work with AT&T, with Walmart, and with other brands, which is awesome. I have a new company called Bolt Image, and what we do is social media consulting and photography production. So as you know, because you and I met at a fashion show in Boston College, I used to model, so I feel very comfortable in front of the camera. And there's a lot of like up and coming influencers that don't feel as comfortable in front of the camera. So what I do is I look at their social media, see what's missing, what I could be, obviously hear what their goals are and how I could be of help. And then I produce 3 different location photo shoot for them. And I book the photographer for them based on their brand and what photographer suits their brand the best. And then I'm there with them during the photography session, coaching them on how to pose, what looks better, what looks more natural. So that's both image. And then I have my production company, Te Para Tres Studios, and we create content for brands or companies. So I'm wearing my producer hat all the time.
Super busy. And we'll provide all of the links below so everyone can follow you on Instagram, find out more about your businesses, and maybe become a client or get some advice from you. You have like thousands of viewers, right?
On Facebook, it's almost like 90,000 followers. On Twitter, it's like 20,000 followers. And on Instagram, it's like 44,000, I think.
That's a lot of people, thousands of people.
I'm always welcoming more because it's my way to connect with people.
Yeah.
Like when you're on stage or when you're in front of a camera hosting, you're by yourself, you're up there just like you and the mic. Yeah. So my way to connect with my audience is through my social media. So I'm like, I love social media because it gives me that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, so hopefully some of the people who are watching you now and just maybe learning about you for the first time will also follow you. And what can they expect to see? I know that I love going on trips with you, and living vicariously through you. What are some of the things that they'll be able to see?
I can be super deep and profound, and I can be super fun and quirky. And some days you'll find me like super glammed out. And then that night I have like no makeup on and I'm like letting you know I'm exhausted, I'm crashing, I need to sleep. I think it's my most sincere, truthful way of letting people into my world. I also go to a lot of music festivals and concerts. So if you're a music lover, definitely follow me. It's like one of the things that makes me happy. I'm very truthful and I answer all of my messages. It might take a couple of days, but I answer all of my messages. And so yeah, I think it's a fun ride. I love my life. So I was like, I think it's a fun ride.
Yeah, you must love your job.
I love what I do. I love that I get to travel the world, entertain people. It's fun, it's a lot of fun. And it has its challenges too. It's up and down. It's not consistent. And you have to be okay with the flux of it, with the ups and downs, and know that that's part of the business that I've chosen. And sometimes you want a job to really happen and it doesn't. And that sucks, So it's like, well, how do you deal with that?
Talk to us more about Rejection, because we started this conversation saying, New York City, going on all those auditions. And then even recently, you represent brands and maybe you're going after being an influencer for a certain brand or getting a job and you don't get it. So I think when people get rejected, after a certain time, they're just like, okay, I'm giving up. This isn't for me. But I would imagine, in hindsight, when you look back at all that you've achieved and all that you've accomplished and where you are today and having thousands of followers and all these brands, there's probably been a lot of rejection in between. Speak more about that experience. Maybe encourage our viewers who want to give up. They're right on the edge of giving up. How can you enjoy the process?
Do you know the actor Tim Daly? Tim Daly's awesome. He's a friend, and he always gives great advice. And he was telling me that, he went to this conference and they were saying like, go for your dream. Don't let anyone tell you can't do it. And he's like, some people can't. Like some people, not everybody that aims to be an actor has the talent to be an actor.
Yeah.
And he's right. Unless you think you're amazing and this is genuinely your calling.
How do you determine that?
You got to be very truthful with yourself. It's not but my mom told me that I'm great. Yeah, that doesn't count.
Although your mom did tell you you're great, you just happen to be great and work hard and have the work ethic and the, intelligence to send in an application and manifest and do all of the right things, right?
Right. Yeah. And the ambition, like go getter. I want it more. And I knew that I could do more.
Right.
11 years later, I'm in Hollywood. If you genuinely think that you have the talent and you've put in the time and you have the discipline and you have the skin,
Mm,
go for it.
mm,
Go for it. Don't give up.
yeah.
But if you want to be an actor, but you also like the idea of being a doctor, or like if you have plan B and C, maybe this is not your career. Like I remember my parents being like, oh, when I was in Boston College with you, I was a theater major. Nobody was a theater major in BC. Nobody goes to Boston College for theater. We're not known for our theater department.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, and I said, I'm going to major in theater. And she's like, well, okay, that's fine. But why don't you have a second major?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no. She's like, okay, then have a minor in business or a minor in marketing. And I'm like, no,
Did you
there's
have
no plan B for me. Like, I'm just going to do this and this is going to happen. That's the hunger that you need to have to
right?
survive in this specific industry.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and sharing your wisdom with us. It's so nice following your journey, and you're really an inspiration to me, and hopefully now everybody who's viewing you through this video with Whole You TV, but obviously the thousands of people that you influence day to day with your energy. It's very pure and very loving, and I'm very grateful to be your friend.
I love you, Shannon, and thank you so much for providing the space for me to share my story and hopefully inspire others.
Thank you, Pili. Have a good night. I know you're off to an influencer event now, so have fun at that too.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.